Fall has definitely arrived here in Ontario. All it's going to take is one good windy night and there'll be no leaves left on these trees. I wonder what's going on back at the train station. Geez, it looks like something's been digging my MS290 up. Maybe it was the cat. He's not digging the poollands up. Good morning, everyone. Here we are back again. Got chainsaws to the left, chainsaws to the right, chainsaws everywhere. This over here is where I keep the finished stuff ready for pickup. That's a brand new leaf blower that's ready for pickup. BR 800C. So we've had a couple new additions. We have a Stihl MS271 that won't run. We have a Stihl MS250C with a chain tensioner issue. The 271 that got hit by the tractor, we're going to start with that one right now. 036 with a running issue, an Echo that won't start, a Cub Cadet that won't start, an 028 with a running issue, 271 for service, a 461 with chain tensioner issues, a 261 for service, and a 170 that hit something. We'll start right here. I'll see you at the workbench. Good morning and welcome back to my workbench. Today in the bench we have this Stihl MS271. This is a 50cc farm class chainsaw. The customer who dropped this off said he ran over it with his tractor and give it a full service. So just a quick visual look here. I see the brake handle is broken. This handle is snapped and the clutch cover is cracked right there. Other than that, I think everything is okay with it. It's been sitting over here on my floor. There's fuel in it. It's not leaking. So I think we just broke some plastics. So the customer says that it runs fine. We're going to pull the barn chain off of it, step outside, fire it up, just make sure it's running, and then we'll go ahead, replace the plastics, and clean this thing up and service it. The saw will enjoy a good cleaning up. Check the fuel and then we'll step outside with it. I'll just grab a container and we'll dump it out. Lots of really dirty fuel these days. There's quite a lot of dirt in that. And water. I'm gonna put this into a glass container. You'll be able to see it better. So there's what water looks like, and separated in the bottom. Lots of dirt. Pretty murky looking stuff. But it wasn't here for a running issue. It was here because it got ran over. So I'm not going to put this fuel back in. There's a little bit left in the bottom. I'm just going to try to get as much of it out as I can. Just going to shove this shop rag down in there. There, it's dry in there now. So we'll put some good, fresh, non-watery fuel in this and take it outside. Let's go over to the door. Just make sure it runs. I'll see you over there. So this saw runs. We're going to go ahead and pull the top cover off. We're going to service this saw. We are going to replace this broken handle. We're going to replace this handle. We are not replacing the clutch cover. He said just leave it. So that's what we will do. He's the boss. Let's pull this top cover off and take a little peek underneath. Okay, so that air filter is quite dirty. Lots of very fine dust everywhere. The thing is just caked in very fine dust. You see it just stuck to everything. Let's pull that plug out and take a peek. So fouled spark plug, dirty air filter. It's kind of expected, kind of what I expected to see. These two go hand in hand. Since we're already here, let's take a quick peek down the hole. So the cylinder walls look really good. Lots of carbon buildup on top of the piston. Oops. Could be his oil. He likes to run a dirty air filter. I find it so interesting looking down into the cylinder. So next I'm going to put a new spark plug in, and then I'm going to put his air filter back on just for cleaning. I don't want to get the new air filter dirty, and I'll put a new air filter on before it leaves. BPMR 7A NGK gapped properly. His filter back on just for now. I'm going to pull that recoil off, and then we're going to go over and clean this saw out. There's just dust, fine dust everywhere. He must cut with a dull chain. Now, the chain I just took off of it is not dull. It looks like a new chain. Too bad I couldn't have seen the old chain. So we're going to take this thing over and clean it up well. Whenever you're working with a saw that's been ran over by something, as you peel back the layers, you're always looking for more damage. Sometimes you can find hidden damage as you get going into it. So far, I think everything, the handles took the brunt of it, looks like to me. So I'll go over to the air, clean this thing up. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and this thing is a lot cleaner than it was. I just used some Zep citrus degreaser, sprayed it down, let it soak in a little bit, and then took some air to it. Some of the big chunks, I had to kind of scrape it out. Basically, this thing is a filthy pig. I'll go ahead and pull this broken handle off now. Chain catcher is almost severed. So off of this piece of the handle, this and this have to transfer over to the new handle. This just screws off. This is like a little AV buffer. And then on the other part of the handle, this needs to go over to the new one. Got to grip this and then unscrew this off. I'll use my Robo grips for this. Anybody got a set of Robo grips? I used to sell these at Canadian Tire. Everything's off of that handle. Okay, so here's the parts that I just took off the old handle. And we're going to put them on the new one here. Spring. Screw it on there. Take that cable, put the little end through the hole. Comes out there. And then slide that down in there. Then turn it on to the spring. There we go. I'll go clean this up before I go any further here. Does anybody take their saw apart after every use and clean it out? I'm going to go over to the door. I'll be back. Let's go ahead and remove the brake spring. Safety glasses on. Now we'll remove the brake band. I've got a little clip to remove right there. There's the broken brake handle off. Okay, so our broken handles are off, and now we can start putting this back together. So here's the new brake handle. This is a really finicky little job here. So this pin had to line up. This pin has to line up. This little arm right here is on a spring. You have to pull that arm down to pull this out of the way while keeping these pins lined up, and the brake handle drops down in. It takes 3 hands to do it. All 3 of my hands are in the way, but there it is, it's done. We'll put that clip back on. Let's put the brake band back in. Let's reinstall the brake spring. So if you look back, I just installed this, but this little protective piece was down here further. And then I didn't know if that was right, so I just went and looked it up. And it's actually supposed to be back here, so it must have worked its way this way. Because when I took it off, it was down here as well. I think it's to keep the spring from, rubbing on the plastic around it. So I took it off, moved it. So you'll notice that it looks different than it did 30 seconds ago. Put this cover back on. The clutch springs look good. Everything is tight. Everything looks fine in there. So I'm going to grease my clutch bearing and we'll reinstall it. I'll give this a clean out. This is starting to show a bit of wear. He'll be coming due for a new one. So we're going to put this handle back on. So the buffer's in. This little piece is going to slide up into the fuel tank. This spring is going to go in there. And then the rest of it should just line itself up. Okay, now we'll put our hardware back in. We'll put a new chain catcher on this since we're here. That old one's in pretty bad condition. There's the part number for it. We'll put the 2 screws in the bottom of the handle. And we've got this screw to put in. This last screw for the handle goes into the cylinder. So be very careful not to strip it. Probably safer to take this plastic thing off to do this. I'm just holding it back out of the way. But okay, so we've got our handle reattached, brake handles on, new chain catcher, spikes back on. This has been greased and all back together. We're on the home stretch. So let's put the recoil back on. Good idea to pull it out and check the condition of the rope for fraying or damage. Last thing he wants to do is get home and break his pull start when it's just been to the shop. Take his old air filter off, add it to his pile of parts, new filter. So spark plug's been replaced, air filter's replaced. Go ahead and throw the top cover back on. Some saws, some jobs are more exciting than others. I don't feel this is very exciting, but maybe you guys do, I don't know. So we will pull that fuel filter out of there, replace it as well. Fuel filter is new. We checked the bar oil earlier, and while I had it running, I noticed it was oiling perfectly fine. Something else we can do, usually something I look at as part of a service, is just to have a look at the spark arrestor. So on this model, spark arrestor is, see that screw right there? Just take that out and the spark arrestor will slide out, and we'll just take a peek at it and make sure it's clean. And it's clean. Those spark arrestors can cause people some big problems. If they're plugged up, your saw will not run right. You could go through a whole bunch of things trying to figure it out, and it could be the spark arrestor the whole time. There is a 271 with a new brake handle, this handle replaced, and a full service. And there is the watery, dirty fuel that we took out of this saw before we took it out to start it. Well, let's throw the bar and chain back on. The chain looks like new. The bar has quite a bit of wear. You have to be careful with these. I've mentioned before that these can get like a burr on them. See right there by my finger? And they become very, very sharp. This bar is worn. He'll be coming up due for a bar and a drum sprocket, probably at the same time. I'll look back. How did this come in? I think it came in with the letters on. The letters were upside down, so I'll put it on the other way. This is cracked in a couple places right there. Well, if he decides he wants a new one, we can get him one. Or maybe I have a used one out back that I can dig up. Well, I think that we have pretty well covered it here. It came in with broken handles, and for a service, we replaced all of this broken stuff, filters, and that chain catcher. So let's step outside with it, fire it up, just make sure everything is as it should be, and we'll come back to the table. See you out there. so this Stihl 271, MS271, starts good, runs good, it's oiling. So it came in here because the owner ran it over with his farm tractor. It had a broken handle. We replaced that. And it had a broken brake handle. We replaced that. It does have a cracked clutch cover, but we're going to leave that. If he wants a new one, I'll order him one, or I'll go out back and exhume one for him. We replaced the chain catcher. It's in pretty poor condition. They're inexpensive. I was already there, so we got a new one. And he asked for a full service with new filters. So we got a new spark plug, new fuel filter, new air filter. He'll get all his parts back. So if he wants to keep them for extras or just hang them on the garage wall, he can do that. While we were servicing this, we discovered that he was running some dirty, watery fuel. So we cleaned the tank out, got all the water out of it, and he's leaving with fresh fuel. I think this chainsaw is ready to go back to the farm and do some work. If you find any value in my videos, or maybe you just find them entertaining, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps my channel out. I have a whole line of chainsaws over there calling my name. I'm going to go make a coffee and get to them. Thank you so much for watching.